our last two videos of the introductory series, we introduced the four human needs. Self and tribe make up the decider coin, and gather and organize make up the observer coin. One decider is always a savior, and the other is always a demon. The same goes for the observers. Both coins are therefore unbalanced, but one coin is always more unbalanced than the other. If you're relatively more balanced on the decider coin, then you are a double decider, single observer. And if you're relatively more balanced on the observer coin, you are a double observer, single decider.
In this video, we talk about the four letters and define the cognitive functions. Essentially, the letters give you more nuance to the human needs. They describe how you make decisions and process observations. As with the human needs, the letters come in the form of two binary coins. One coin is associated with the deciders, the other with the observers.
So let's start with the thinking, feeling coin. We often shorten thinking to the letter T and feeling with the letter F. In the OP system, thinking is the responsibility for deciding what is true, what makes sense, and how to get things to work. Feeling is the responsibility for deciding what is important, what is valuable, and how to set priorities. Now, of course, everybody thinks and everybody feels. Again, the question is, what is your savior and what is your demon? You could be savior thinking and demon feeling. This means that figuring out what is true and how to get things to work is your obvious responsibility. It's what comes naturally and what you tend to overdo. Prioritizing and deciding what's important is what you neglect. You struggle with expressing emotions and tend to do work for work's sake.
The other case is being savior feeling and demon thinking. Setting priorities and deciding what's important are your obvious responsibilities. You do that naturally in favor of getting things to work and figuring out what's actually true. It's not like you can't do any work, of course, but you generally need to value something first. The thinking feeling coin is associated with the decider coin because you need to know what is true and what is important in order to make good decisions. If we consider the DIDE coin and the thinking feeling coin at the same time, we get four different combinations for having saviors. You could be savior DI and savior thinking, savior DI and savior feeling, savior DE and savior thinking, or savior DE and savior feeling.
As a shorthand for these combinations, we use Carl Jung's cognitive functions. Having savior DI and savior thinking is the same as having savior TI. Savior DI and savior feeling is the same as having savior FI. Savior DE and savior thinking is the same as having savior TE. And savior DE and savior feeling combine to savior FE. The cognitive functions come in pairs. If you have savior TI, you have demon FE, which means having demon DE and demon feeling. It's the other way around if you have savior FE. The same is true for FI and TE. You either have both or neither. One is your savior and the other is your demon. We also call TI-FE and FI-TE function axes.
The second letter coin is sensing and intuition. We use S for sensing and N for intuition. The thing with the letter N is a bit awkward, but the I already belongs to introverted, unfortunately. Sensing and intuition are associated with the observer coin. They bring nuance to how we process the observation. Sensing is the responsibility for observing the physical world and facts, and for presenting proof. Intuition is the responsibility for making abstract connections, seeing possibilities, and drawing general conclusions. One is always the savior, and the other is always the demon.
If you have savior sensory and demon intuition, you are generally looking for proof before you draw conclusions. You are more aware of the facts, but hesitant to guess. If you have savior intuition and demon sensory, you tend to go directly for the abstract understanding or the bottom line. You don't waste time before you guess and pay less attention to the minute details.
The sensory intuition coin is associated with the observers because we need to know the facts and understand them in context in order to process information well. As for the deciders in the TNF coin, we get four observer cognitive functions if we cross the observer human needs with sensory and intuition. OI and sensory make SI. OI and intuition make NI, OE and sensory combine to SE, and OE and intuition combine to NE. These cognitive functions come in pairs too. You either have SI and NE or NI and SE. One function is the savior and the other is the demon. SINE and NISE are the other two function axes.
We introduced the cognitive functions as the shorthand for talking about two coins at the same time, but they are more than just a shorthand, which is important for understanding typing. If you're on the TI-FE axis, you associate reasons with yourself. Reasons feel more personal, whereas feelings feel rather impersonal. It's what you see as the natural value exchange between people.
If you're on the FITE axis, it's the other way around. You are relatively more attached to your feelings, while the thinking is impersonal. The natural value exchange for you is helping other people. This results in very different styles of communication and interaction that depend more on your axes than on your saviors and demons. The same kind of personal-impersonal dynamic also exists for the two observer axes, but I bet we'll talk more about that in some future video.
In the last part of the series, we introduced 4 different stacks of human needs that define 4 basic types. These are the IJ, the IP, the EP, and the EJ. All stacks have all 4 human needs. One pair is at the poles, and the other is in the middle. From the top to the bottom, they alternate between introverted and extroverted needs. We can combine each stack with the letters in 4 different ways to get a total of 16 different function stacks. These function stacks correspond directly to the 16 Myers-Briggs types.
Let's take a closer look at the IPs to see how this plays out. For the decider and the observer needs, we each have 2 possibilities to assign axes, which gives us 4 possibilities in total. Every IP is either an ISTP, INTP, ISFP, or INFP. The ISTPs are on the TIFE and NISE axes. The INTPs are on the TIFE and SINE axes. The ISFPs are on the FITE and NISE axes, and the INFPs are on the FITE and SINE axes. The letters between the I and the P are the letters of the top 2 functions in the stack, regardless of the middle savior. Why do the stacks have these names? It's another MBTI thing. OP just stuck with it.
The top function is always the first savior. For example, every ISFP is a decider, savior DI, and savior feeling. The last function is always a demon. Every ISFP is demon DE and demon thinking. All of them have SE as their second function in the stack, and NI is the third. But the second savior can either be SE or NI. We call the types with the second function as their savior standard types, and the ones with the third function as their savior jumpers, because they jump their second function. So if we take all 5 coins that we've introduced so far into account, this gives us 32 different types. We call them the OPS 32. We can describe them by their first and second savior function. And for each of the 16 standard types, there is a jumper type that has the same stack but the opposite savior function.
For example, my type is TISE. This means that TI is my first savior function and SE is my second savior function. TIFE is my decider axis and NISE my observer axis. I'm a standard type because my first savior is introverted and my second savior is extroverted. So I'm a standard ISTP.
My type is TENE. Both my savior functions are extroverted, which means that I am a jumper. TE is my first savior and NE is my second. I'm on the TEFI and SINE axes. All types with DE first have OI as their second human need. For me, it's SI, but it's my middle demon. In total, this makes me an ESTJ jumper. I'm sure we'll talk more about jumpers and function axes and all that in future videos.
The OPS 32 represent the core of the different types. It captures your core fear and imbalances. However, it doesn't capture how you expend your energy. The human needs have either an introverted or an extroverted charge, but they don't determine if your whole type is overall more introverted or more extroverted. All IJs have an introverted function at the top, but some of them are super extroverted. Other types have 2 extroverted savior functions, but are still overall introverted, like Holly, for example. All of this comes down to another part of the OP system that we'll explain in the next video.